Hare Krishna. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, entitled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy, Text 17. So 3.9.17. It's August 2nd, 2026. And so this is Brahma's prayers. And somewhat similar, related to the Sri Brahma Samhita. Brahma also has 27 verses in the same 14-syllable meter as we find in this chapter, praying to Krishna for creative energy. So Canto 3, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 9, Text 17. We can start with the Sanskrit responsively, words. Loko Vikarma Nirata Kushale Pramata Karmanyayam Tvad Udite Bhavad Archane Sve Yas Tavad Asya Balavan Iha Jivitasham Sadyash Chinati Animishaya Namo Stu Tasmai. And now one line at a time responsively. Loko Vikarma Nirata Kushale Pramata Karmanyayam Tvarudite Bhavadarchane Sve Yastavadasya Balavan Iha Jivitasham Sadyashchinatya Nimishaya Namostu Tasmai. Loko Vikarma Nirata Kushale Pramata Karmanyayam Tvarudite Bhavadarchane Sve Yastavadasya Balavani Hajivitasham Satyashchinatya Nimishaya Namostu Tasmai. Loko Vikarma Nirata Kushale Pramata Karmanyayam Tvarudite Bhavadarchane Sve Yastavadasya Balavani Hajivitasam Satyashchinatya Nimishaya Namostu Tasmai. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 17. Would anyone else like to lead the chanting of the text?
Loko Vikarma Nirata Kushale Pramata
Loko Vikarma Nirata Kushale Pramata
Karmanyayam Tvaludite Bhavadarchane Sve
Karmanyayam Tvarudite Bhavadarchane Sve
Yastavadasya Balavani Hajivitasham
Yastavadasya Balavan Iha Jivitasham
Sadyashchinati Animishayanamatu Stutasmai.
Sadyashchinatya Nimishaya Namostu Tasmai.
Loko Vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Loko vikarma
nirata kushale pramata.
Karmanyayam vadutite bhavadarchane sve.
Karmanyayam tvarudite bhavadarchane sve.
Yastavat asya balavan iha jivitasham.
Yastavadasya balavan iha jivitasham.
Sadhyashinacha animishaya namostu tashmai.
Sadyashtinadya nimishaya namo tasmai.
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Karmani ayam svadutai bhavad arkan sve.
Karmanyayam tvarudite bhavadarchane sve.
Yastavadasya balavan iha jivitasam.
Yastavadasya balavan iha jivitasham.
Sadyaschinati animisaya namostu tasmai.
Sadyashtinadya nimishaya namostu tasmai.
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Karma nyayam padute bhavarachane sve.
Karmanyayam tvarudite bhavadarchane sve.
Yastavadasya balavani ajivitasham.
Yastavadasya balavan iha jivitasham.
Sadyaschinati animaishaya namostu tasme.
Sadyashtinadya nimishaya namostu tasmai.
Loko vikarma nirata kushile pramata.
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Karmaniyayam vadusite bhagavarachane sve.
Karmanyayam tvarudite bhavadarchane sve.
Yastavadasya balavamiha jivatasyam.
Yastavadasya balavan iha jivitasham.
Sadyashinati inimasaya namostu tasmai.
Sadyashtinadya nimishaya namostu tasmai. Hare Krishna. Would anyone online like to lead the chanting of the text?
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Karmanyayam tvadudite bhavadarchana sve.
Karmanyayam tvarudite bhavadarchane sve.
Yastavadasya balavan iha jivitasham.
Yastavadasya balavan iha jivitasham.
Sadyashinatya nimisaya namostu tasmai.
Sadyashtinadya nimishaya namostu tasmai.
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Loko vikarma nirata kushale pramata.
Karmanyayam tvadudite bhavadarchane sve.
Karmanyayam tvarudite bhavadarchane sve.
Yastavadasya balavaniha jivitasham.
Yastavadasya balavan iha jivitasham.
Sadyastinatya nimishaya namostu tasmai.
Sadyastinadya nimishaya namostu tasmai. Now we can look at the word meanings responsively. Loka,
Loka,
people in general.
people in general.
Vikarma,
Vikarma,
work without sense.
Work without sense.
Nirata,
Nirata.
engaged in.
Engaged in.
Kushale,
Kushale.
in beneficial activity.
In beneficial activity.
Pramata,
Pramata.
negligent.
Negligent.
Karmani,
Karmani.
inactivity.
Inactivity.
Ayam,
Ayam.
this.
This.
Tvat,
Tvat.
by you.
Vayu.
Udite,
Udite.
enunciated.
Enunciated.
Bhavat,
Bhavat.
of you.
Of you.
Archane,
Archane.
in worship.
In worship.
Sve,
Sve.
their own.
Their own.
Ya,
Ya.
who.
Who.
Tavat,
Tavat.
as long as.
As long as.
Asya,
Asya.
of the people in general.
Of the people in general.
Balavan,
Balavan.
very strong.
Very strong.
Iha,
Iha.
this.
This.
Jivita asham,
Jivita Asham.
struggle for existence.
Struggle for existence.
Sadhya,
Sadhya.
directly.
Directly.
Chinati,
Janati.
is cut to
Is
pieces.
cut to pieces.
Animishaya,
Anishaya.
by the eternal time.
Eternal time.
Nama,
Nama.
my obeisances.
My obeisances.
Astu,
Astu.
let there be.
Let there be.
Tasmai,
Tasmai.
unto him.
Unto him.
Translation, people in general all engage in foolish acts, not in the really beneficial activities enunciated directly by you for their guidance. As long as their tendency for foolish work remains powerful, all their plans in the struggle for existence will be cut to pieces. I therefore offer my obeisances unto him who acts as eternal time. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. People in general are all engaged in senseless work. They are systematically unmindful of the real beneficial work, which is the devotional service of the Lord, technically called the Archana Regulations. The Archana Regulations are directly instructed by the Lord in the Narada Pancharatra and are strictly followed by the intelligent men who know well that the highest perfectional goal of life is to reach Lord Vishnu, who is the root of the tree called the cosmic manifestation. Also, in the Bhagavatam and in Bhagavad Gita, such regulative activities are clearly mentioned. Foolish people do not know that their self-interest is in realization of Vishnu. The Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, text 30 to 32 says, so this Chapter 5 of 7th Canto, so this is Prahlad Maharaj. So these verses are 3 verses from Prahlad Maharaj, amongst many verses from Prahlad Maharaj that Srila Prabhupada often quotes very well. All of the 18,000 verses from Srimad Bhagavatam are completely transcendental, purifying, transformational. And there are some verses, same with Bhagavad Gita, that are especially relevant for us. And these are 3 of them. Prabhupada quotes a lot. In Canto 7 from beginning to end, it really focuses on Sri Prahlad Maharaj and the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsingadev, and especially in chapters 5 and 9 of Canto 7. There's many verses that Srila Prabhupada often quotes. Chapter 5 is Prahlad Maharaj speaking to his father, Hiranyakashipu, and chapter 9 is after Lord Nrsingadev takes care of Hiranyakashipu, and chapter 9 is Prahlad Maharaj's prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. So, Matirna Krishne Parata Svatova Mito Bipadyete Griha Vratanam Madanta Gopir Vishatam Tamisram Puna Punash Chavita Charvananam Natevi tu Swarta Gatim Hi Vishnum Darashaye Bahir Artamanina Andayatande Upaniyamanas Te Pishatantram Udam Nibata Naishammatista Vadu Klaman Green Sprishat Yanarta Bhagamo Yadarta Mahiya Sampada Rajo Bishekam Nishkinchananam Navinitayava. And now the translations of those three verses. Persons who are determined to totally rot in false material happiness cannot become Krishna-minded, either by instructions from teachers, by self-realization, or by parliamentary discussions. They are dragged by the unbridled senses into the darkest region of ignorance, and thus they madly engage in what is called chewing the chewed. Okay, so that's a Prahlad Maharaj metaphor for material enjoyment. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get vulgar or gross about it. We can just imagine, let's say, a piece of gum. Okay, so it's like, oh yeah, it's got sweetness, it's got, yeah, got the piece of gum. And okay, but let's say we're on the second hour of that piece of gum. Okay, let's say we're chewing it for the third hour, but I'm gonna get more disgusting here. Let's say, okay, after 3 days of the gum, we throw it on the ground, and someone else picks it up. There's no, you get the idea. So this is material enjoyment. No, I'll do it again and again, and it's dry and empty, and there's no flavor there. Of course, even the original flavor of material enjoyment doesn't touch the soul. But so, heavy analogies. Yes. Prahlad Maharaj also describes that material existence is like being falling into a pit of snakes. We fall, our bones are broken, and it's a pit of snakes. So these heavy analogies. Heavy, but not as miserable as the real thing. And that's that's what we're meant to get to wake up to how the futility and the misery of the spirit, the embarrassing condition of the spirit soul in trying to futilely enjoy matter, and not just to indulge in suffering and misery, and let that self-awareness and the desperation of it move us to actual happiness. Evam janam nipatitam prabhavai kupe prabhavai, like a pit of snakes. This morning at 5 a.m. Lakshmi Priya led us. Samsara dava nalalida loka Trinaya karunya ganatvam praptasikalyana gunarnavasya bande guru shri charanara. Imagine that, like a forest fire, like a forest fire. We're trapped in a forest fire, and the heat, just the terrifying pain of that. Okay, but then the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is like the rain cloud extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence, and that's where Prahlad Maharaj is going to go in the third verse that Prabhupada will translate here. Okay. So, chewing the chewed, punah, punash, charvita, charvanana. Sometimes, just sharing. I remember my, yes, that, I remember Abhi and we had a talk during a class about 12 years ago. We were talking about learning verses, and sometimes, okay, to learn the whole verse, but if you just learn one particular line, punah, punash, charvita, charvananam, like chewing the chewed, then everyone thinks, oh, you know that verse, even though I just know one line, but no, it works for the whole adoration and distinction thing. I'm probably revealing more than I should reveal here, but Abhi and I have our secrets. And that's a good line to learn if you're just going to learn chewing the chew. Punah, punash, charvita, charvanana. Because of their foolish activities, they are unaware that the ultimate goal of human life is to achieve Vishnu, the Lord of the cosmic manifestation, and so their struggle for existence is in the wrong direction of material civilization, which is under the external energy. They are led by similar foolish persons, just as one blind man is led by another blind man, and both fall in the ditch. That's another key one, the third line of that second verse there. Andaya tande praniyamana. Prabhupada quotes the whole verse off, but the third line, like the blind following the blind into a ditch. That's material existence. That's the I just need to belong to the club, desire for approval, so I'll follow you and fall off the cliff as long as you like me. And the next one, such foolish men cannot be attracted towards the activities of the Supreme Powerful, who is actually the neutralizing measure for their foolish activities, unless and until they have the good sense to be guided by the great souls who are completely freed from material attachment. It's a classic guru, spiritual master verse association. If we're all tangled up, and like if I'm tangled up and you're tangled up, and we can speak a good game about, don't worry, I'll save you, but we need someone who's not tied up. So that's the liberated, pure devotee of Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asks everyone to give up all other occupational duties and absolutely engage in archan activities or in pleasing the Lord. What verse do you think Prabhupada's referring to there?
1867, right?
I agree.
Okay.
Would someone like to quote that verse?
What's the first one of the Sanskrit?
Sarva, Saradhaman. Thank you, Lakshmi Priya.
It
You did it.
was deep in there.
Good job. Deep in there. Well, that reminds me of 8th canto, the pastime of Gajendra the elephant. And Gajendra is fighting the alligator. And I think it's a crocodile, actually. But here we are in Florida, so we say alligator. Okay. And so typically, the elephant's stronger than the alligator. The elephant's going to win. But because they're on the crocodile's home turf in the water, they're fighting for like years and years. It's not just like a 2-minute thing. They go on and on.
I mean, like 1,000 years?
It's right. Like 1,000 years of the demigods, so quite the epic, long battle. And slowly the elephant's getting weaker because the elephant's not on the land, whereas the crocodile in the water gets strength. And now, in one of the purports to that section in the 8th canto, Prabhupada makes the point, because at that time in the movement, when Prabhupada was writing that purport, many who had taken the sannyasa ashram, they were leaving and having trouble and just getting involved in some scandalous activities and things like that. And the idea is like the sannyas renounced ashram is meant to be very glorious. At the same time, let's say there was and generally is, like in Vedic society, there could be prestige attached to it. Oh, you're very spiritual. So many, and Prabhupada knew this, were taking the sannyasa ashram because then you get the best plate of Mahaprasad. It's offered, or you get, this is true actually, you get adoration and distinction and special da-da-da. But they weren't really prepared for the austerities of the sannyasa ashram. So in one of the purports there, Srila Prabhupada, he says, he gives the example of Gajendra. And he said, so Gajendra wasn't strong in the water. So even though 1,000 years, but he was losing the fight. And so Prabhupada says, like, this is a war against Maya. Sometimes we say to devotees, we are gentle and we offer to serve devotees, and we're very respectful and offer obeisances. An exception is Maya. She's a great devotee of Krishna, but she's one devotee we can declare war on. So it's a war on Maya. I know in, I think, one of our staff meetings before the recent advanced course, we said this is a war on Maya. This next week is a war on illusion. So Prabhupada emphasizes, situate yourself in whatever ashram where you'll be strongest to fight Maya. And that might be married life, it might be brahmachari life, it might be sannyas. But don't go to some ashram for some, then I'll get adoration and distinction and popularity and people, all of this subtle or not so subtle sense gratification, because then you'll have trouble, then Maya will just slam you. So just situate yourself, and then situate yourself, whether it's grahastha or sannyas, whatever it is. So Gajendra, the elephant, he's gone down, he's losing, and like there's nowhere to go. And then he surrenders, and it's described in that part of the thing. Then he surrenders to Vishnu, and it's described because he's in elephant form. I sense he didn't memorize, like Bhagavatam verses, but from a previous life, verses that were deep within, in that desperate condition, he just started chanting these verses that were deep within from a previous life. And Prabhupada emphasizes, these verses go to the very core of our being. So we learn them, and it's with us deeply, even if we might forget cognitively, a verse, a word or two. Okay, so Prabhupada says, in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asks everyone to give up all other occupational duties and absolutely engage in archana activities or in pleasing the Lord. But also no one is attracted to such archana activity. Everyone is more or less attracted by activities which are conditions of rebellion against the Supreme Lord. The systems of jnana and yoga are also indirectly rebellious acts against the Lord. There is no auspicious activity except archana of the Lord. Jnana and yoga are sometimes accepted within the purview of archana, when the ultimate aim is Vishnu and not otherwise. The conclusion is that only the devotees of the Lord are bona fide human beings eligible for salvation. Others are vainly struggling for existence without any benefit. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamrupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagnaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paritana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatu Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Narinam Namaskritya Naram Chavinamotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, One should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasa Dev, the author. Nasta Prayesh Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 17. Loko vikarmanirta kushale pramata karmanyayam tvarudite bhavadarchane sve yastavadasya bhagavani ajivitasham sadyashtina janimishai yanamostu tasmai. People in general all engage in foolish acts, not in the really beneficial activities enunciated directly by you for their guidance. As long as their tendency for foolish work remains powerful, all their plans in the struggle for existence will be cut to pieces. I therefore offer my obeisances unto him who acts as eternal time. Yes. Okay. All right. So we have terms here, heavy terms, strong terms. Okay. Tendency for foolish work. And then the purport Srila Prabhupada starts with, people in general are all engaged in senseless work. So that senseless work, foolish work, and the word here is right at the second word, is vikarma, work without sense. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, there's, a section, in a particular verse where Krishna talks about karma, vikarma, and akarma. Okay? So vikarma, I think of in terms like the English word vicious karma. That's really senseless and foolish. And that's just like, there's no guidance, no rules and regulations. We're just Nayabikram Nasa State Patibhagna Vijite Swapamapyasi Dharmasa Trite Mato Bhayat. Krishna says, if one engages even a little bit of bhakti, then they're saved by the most terrible sort of fear, which is like going into the animal species, losing the special opportunity of the human form, and even like someone does some bhakti, but not clear all the anarthas, become a pure devotee, go back to Godhead. Of course, this Godhead is a geography, and essentially it's a consciousness. But even Krishna's saying, even if one does not complete the process, still, then there's the Suchinam Shimatam Gehe Yogo Brashto Vijayate, get a human form of life, perhaps in the family of the devotees, and you get to continue, but if we're engaged in vikarma, then we're just, let's say if we get a nice car or something, and we're just recklessly using the car and acting foolishly, senselessly, whimsically, and putting others at risk and doing damage. That's the senseless, foolish. That's the vikarma. That's the vikarma. And okay, and so Brahma, out of compassion, he's so he's doing the whole creation to create forms, including the bodies, including the planetary systems and the trees, forms and systems to support us, to come back to our actual joy. Nityasita Krishna Prema Sajika Bhunoi Shravanani Shudachite Karye Udai. Love of Krishna is eternally situated in the hearts of all living entities. It's not something to be gotten from some external contrived source. And it's awakened through this process of hearing and chanting. Particularly, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's the prime process. Another process is the Archana process that's described here. So this whole nine processes devotional service, 9 categories of devotional service. Where does that come from? That comes from Prahlad Maharaj. It's a classic verse. Because here Prabhupada's quoting, these 3 verses from Canto 7, Chapter 5, text 30 to 32. And then a little bit before that, in text 23 to 24, in that same chapter, basically, Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, what's like the best thing you learned in school today, son? And he wants to use diplomacy to crush your enemies, or economic development to manipulate material energy to enhance our power and like that. But no, Prahlad Maharaj says, Shravanam, he gives the 9 processes of devotional service to Vishnu. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Krishna is the original Vishnu. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Dasyam Atma Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. Iti Pushpar Pital Vishnu. Bhaktischan Navalakshana Kriyata Bhagavat Yada Tanmanye Ditam Uttama. So hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of Krishna. And keep in mind, just to be a little empathic for Hiranyakashipu, okay? Because this Vishnu killed his brother. It's hey, Prahlad, he's our enemy. And you're saying that's the goal of life, to serve Vishnu. Let's go back to the third, actually in our systematic reading, in a few chapters here in the 3rd canto, we'll hear about Hiranyaksha and Hiranyaksha and Viraha and that fight. And Hiranyaksha was the brother, the twin brother of Hiranyakashipu. Okay, so Brahma is wanting to create the universe, to give all the conditioned souls, and that's us, the conditioned souls, a chance to revive their original devotional, loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Brahma's saying everything else, it's foolish and senseless and useless. And now we talked about vikarma, and that's where we're just destroying things. But we're just going down. We're just going down in the species. When Brahma and then Srila Prabhupada and the purport say, okay, so then karma, see that's vikarma we described earlier, and Brahma describes in the verse. And then karma, it's kind of it's basically sattvic activities. At least activities brings us towards sattva. We're following some regulations. Yashastra vidimuchija vartate kamakarata nasa siddhi medvapnoti nasukamna pramgati. Krishna says towards the end of the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that if one's not following any Vedic regulations or biblical or Quran, if one's not following any kind of scriptural regulations, then they're lost, and there's no possibility for happiness or moving towards the supreme aim. No happiness, and no cleanliness, no peace like that. But then there's different healthy karmic processes that are still involved in karma, but we're elevating ourselves. So sometimes that's encouraged. That's the classic meeting people where they're at, and that's what the Vedas do. So there's karma yoga, which ultimately leads to bhakti. In itself, it's also senseless and waste. There's a verse, I know Mother Malini gave a course, or maybe she's still giving the course, on the 2nd chapter of 1st canto of Bhagavatam, texts 4 to 22, something like that. So, all of those verses Prabhupada quotes a lot. One of the verses, Dharma svanustita pumsa visvaksena katasviyad no padayadya dharvyadi retim shrama eva kevalam. that one's dharma, like I'm fulfilling my dharma to my family, my society, my job, and my organization, and my species. Said, well, that's yeah. Well, it's a useless waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. It's completely, totally a useless waste of time unless it leads dharma svanustitapu vishucks, unless it leads to attraction, to hear and chant about the transcendental Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So that's the old, and the same with the yoga process. There's so many processes given. Lakshmi Priya a few minutes ago quoted Sarvardhaman Priyagyamam Mekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tvam Sarvapapibhyo Mukshayashami Mashucha. Krishna says abandon all the yoga processes, abandon all the philosophy processes, not abandon philosophy, but abandon all the religious processes and just surrender to me. As like, because all the processes are meant to lead to that childlike pure devotion to Krishna, to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, the source of all material and spiritual energies. And if they don't lead there, then even they are like a Vedic process, that's also, in some senses, it's encouraged because we are progressing towards sattva. And in another sense, if we, kind of like I was in maximum security prison, straight jacket, like that. And then I'm going towards a minimum security prison, So there's something nice about that. But if we don't actually get out of the prison, and that's a bhakti, that's the eternal process, where there is eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present, and thus not subject, and thus not subject to the quality of not subject to past and present, and not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. That's from Brahma Samhita. Only a very few self-realized souls in this world realize that eternal place as Goloka Vrindavan. Okay. So if we don't get out of the prison, it's sort of useless. I mean, it could be argued, well, minimum security. Some of you have heard me tell my story from the early 90s. Twice I went with Chandrasekhar Prabhu. He was the ISKCON prison minister at that time. I went to Eglin Air Force Base, and we saw the prisoners could play tennis and volleyball. It was a pretty nice life. But if because it was white collar crime, but if they crossed the line, then they go to maximum security. They couldn't just go and visit their family in Hawaii or New York when they wanted. So, to get out of the prison altogether and to be a free, liberated participant in society, contribute to society. We've given, a few weeks ago in a class or two, we gave the analogy of even like the yoga process. Okay, the analogy of okay, let's say there's a child. Let's say there's a child, and the child is like, look, Mom, look, Dad, I can twist my body this way and that way, and I can point my leg there, and I can do this with... Okay, so Mom and Dad are, oh, good, and pat him on the head, something. But come on, Mom and Dad, they'd be really actually pleased if it's, let's say the child is like, Mom, Dad, I washed the dishes. I washed the dishes. I cleaned the room. I went to the garage and organized the shelves. Dad, I mowed the lawn. And it's like, wow, this is really helpful. This is really service. So similar. It's an analogy. The Supreme Sri Sri Radha Krishna, if kind of like someone, and look, I can do this and that. Okay, good. But no, really. Now, if the idea of doing this and that actually moves one to a peaceful place in there, and they meditate on Krishna in the heart, super soul, and that leads them to service, okay, then it's useful. then it becomes to be to chanting the name of Krishna, and to serving the pure devotee of Radha. If all of that leads to that, okay, then it's pleasing. Otherwise, in itself, it's like, oh, okay, we'll give you a pat on the head, but like, it'd be nice if you could actually do the dishes or something. All right. So, yeah, like that, because that's the ultimate goal, to like please Supreme Mother and Father. That's the ultimate goal, and it's described. Yeah. So even these things that are good, at the same time, Brahma is saying, in some sense, it's not like terrible and atrocious and vicious like the V karma, just driving your car recklessly here and there. But it's also foolish and senseless, because if it's not actually pleasing Krishna, pleasing Krishna. Similarly, like in someone's own impersonal path, there's a lot good about that. Detachment from matter, and realization of the futility of trying to enjoy matter. It's good. At the same time, another verse from Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, he's definitely a star and a hero of Srimad Bhagavatam. Well, sometimes he gets into trouble, but and that's the point. Ahamitirhi Devinam Maharshinam Chasarvasha. And that's a point of like Krishna book 10th canto, to show like as great as these demigods are, even Brahma, they are. Krishna is the source. Krishna is not another demigod. Krishna is the source of the sages, the saints, and the demigods. And so sometimes the subordinate position of the demigods like Brahma to Krishna is illustrated by certain pastimes like Brahma Vimohan Lila, where Brahma gets all confused, tries to steal the cowherd boys. So, yeah, so even like those who become impersonally realized, or at least that's the path, it's good in a sense. There's something praiseworthy about that. But ultimately, that's not intrinsically pleasing to Krishna, and they fall back down because we're satisfied and fulfilled in service, right? In this world, we're all looking to serve and relate and exchange communication and like that. And so if our spiritual path just brings us to the oneness, Yene Ravindaksha Vimukti Maninas Tvayasta Baba Avishuddha Buddhayo. Yes, Avishuddha Buddha. That Patantya Do Nadrita Yushmad Angraya. That ultimately, because there's no fulfillment that comes, no bliss that comes from service, then such an impersonally realized. So we'll come back down to the material sphere to try to get some. Prabhupada often quotes the English saying, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So just kind of like, okay, in the Brahma Gyoti and so on, there's no variety. There's no positive enjoyment there. So if there's not a taste for serving Krishna, or if there's envy of Krishna, then come back down to the material sphere. There's the example of the 4 Kumaras, will be described like chapter 15 of this canto. Description of the kingdom of God, beautiful chapter. The 4 Kumaras were impersonally realized, but they did not have envy for Krishna. So they were, just last Monday we mentioned the 4 Kumaras. They were there in Vaikuntha, and they just got a whiff of the fragrance of the tulasi flowers that had been offered to the lotus feet of Vishnu. And from that whiff, they transformed from impersonalists to devotees, just from that fragrance. It's described. And Sukadeva Goswami, similarly, he transformed from Atmarama impersonalist to a pure devotee of Krishna, just through hearing a few verses of Bhagavatam when he was wandering in the forest. Srila Prabhupada gives the analogy. Yes, Prabhupada gives the analogy of like the impersonal realization it's kind of like, okay, like the ocean, and all of the drops are merged. Of course, each drop still retains its individual identity as a drop, but all the drops are merged. But that's temporary, because eventually the drops of the ocean, through the sunlight, they're going to be evaporated, and they're going to leave the ocean. They're going to leave the ocean and become rain and come to the mountains and the rivers and maybe come to the ocean again. But it's not, but he says, the devotee of Krishna, that's a stable position. The devotee is like the aquatics within the ocean. Not just a drop of water that'll get evaporated. The devotee is like there's unlimited varieties of aquatics. So this is their nectar of devotion. The devotee is like the aquatic within the ocean. Within the ocean, swimming, it's a very stable position. So, as Prabhupada, such intricate, genius analogies. So, but a verse in Bhagavad Gita talks about one particular verse in the 9th chapter. Krishna talks a lot about frustration, mogasha, mogakarmano, mogakarma vitetasa, rakshasim, asurim chaiva, prakritim mohinim shuta. Krishna says, that without bhakti, one's endeavors for liberation, one's endeavors for material advancement, which essentially is like sandcastles that'll be carried away by the tide. They're all frustrated without bhakti. And then bhakti it's completely world embracing. It's not about rejection of the world. It is about it's about cultivating realization of how to use everything in Krishna's service. Then it becomes meaningful. Then the profession becomes truly meaningful. Then the yoga becomes truly meaningful. Then the relationships become truly meaningful. That's kind of, I was very enlivened, inspired this past week or so, and then on Friday there was the Roots program, and I just had like members amongst the recent graduate group, and one came into me and says, I chanted 16 rounds today. And he's like, we do this every day. So that's it, we're endeavoring to and coaching, transformational facilitation, communication training, leadership training. Oh, it should be rejected, it's not spiritual. No, it's Bhagavad Gita 101. That was Arjuna's illusion. I shouldn't fight. No, it's your service to fight. And fight. Tasmad Zavesha Kalashu Mamanushmari Yujacha Maya Pita Manovidu Mame Veshyasya Samshya. Fight for Krishna. So we're endeavoring, and it's mostly for me. It's all about David Wolf, as we often say. I just get so enlivened to see people come to their original consciousness as spirit souls in connection with super soul, and joyfully engaging in this eternal transcendental process. And then, we mentioned earlier that so because everything we're giving, we're guided by Srila Prabhupada. We talk about super soul connection. Guyama Kiti Prichati. Srila Rupa Goswami emphasizes that in relationships genuinely meant to support self-realization and connection with the higher guidance within. It's vital, it's not optional, to be expert in creating a sacred space, a safe place to share the mind and heart, and inquire confidentially. So that's our attempt in all the Safatov programs, and even including in these Safato Bhakti Yoga programs, to create a safe and sacred space to share the heart confidentially, not just to feel your feelings and I feel this and I think this, to support super soul connection. And so all of this is under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. So yeah, we want to clear the knots in the heart, the anarthas is the dust on the diamond, and to come to Super Soul connection, and always not being overconfident about I'm so Super Soul connected. We want to more and more trust our Super Soul connection and always confirm, because we can be 100% sure to hear Super Soul. How can we hear Super Soul? Every line from Srila Prabhupada, every vibration from Srila Prabhupada, that's Super Soul talking to us. Now, there's always our responsibility how to process that, how to interpret it. That's why, about 2 years ago, I published Srila Prabhupada Shastra, like that. Because more and more, unfortunately, including even in Srila Prabhupada's movement, there was the ideas, well, we need to pick and choose what we get from Srila Prabhupada, because, sometimes Prabhupada had a bad day. I'm using some comedy here, but it's very serious. It's very serious stuff. So no, everything from Srila Prabhupada is Super Soul. That is Super Soul speaking to us. So that's always our confirmation. And the more we hear from Srila Prabhupada and follow his guidance, then the more our hearts get cleansed, and we have the connection with Chaitya Guru. Chaitya Guru is the Guru, is Super Soul in the heart. So I'll close here. I'll read the text again. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 17. Loko vikarma nirta kushaled pramanta karmanyayam tvadutite bhavadarchane sve yasta valasya balavanya jivitasam sadyaschinat yanimishaya namostu tasmai. People in general all engage in foolish acts, not in the really beneficial activities enunciated directly by you for their guidance. As long as their tendency for foolish work remains powerful, all their plans in the struggle for existence will be cut to pieces. I therefore offer my obeisances unto him who acts as eternal time. Thanks for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. I welcome any comments or questions. Gopi Vallabha.
What's the name you said? Something Guru is the Super Soul in the heart?
Chaitya Guru.
Chaitya.
C-A-I-T-Y-A.
C-A-I-T-Y.
Yeah. Same root as Chaitanya.
Mm.
Same root as the Chinese Chi, life.
Mm.
Same root as the Hebrew L'chaim, to life. Chaim means life in Hebrew. Same root here. So it means it's the life of our life.
Mm.
It's the very substratum of our existence.
Mm. Okay. And then something else you were sharing that maybe was in the report, that people that are really entangled in material energy, there's no chance for them to know God, or no chance for them to connect to bhakti or something like that. And I was noticing resistance coming up for me around that. Of I can see how when people are really entangled, there's no taste, there's no awareness, there's no intelligence.
Yeah.
It's taking them out of the entanglement of material energy. And then at the same time, I don't feel hopeless that they're never gonna find God. Miracles happen and God is merciful, and maybe they have other karma, maybe they're burning karma. So I would like to hear explain that a little bit more.
Sure. Thanks for that question. I'm not sure exactly appropriate, but I think I know what you're referring to. There's a place in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, chapter 16, the divine and demoniac natures, Tanaham Ducha Kuran, Samsarishu, Naradamam, Kshipam Yadrasam, Asubhan, Nasarishu, Yonishu. Krishna talks about such persons with such mentality go just life after life in hellish species. So this whole Bhakti Yoga Bhagavatam, there is no eternal damnation. There is no eternal damnation. And what's being described is that as long as we retain the criminal karma mentality, I want to do my David Wolf God project. Krishna doesn't even exist. As long as we maintain that mentality, then we continue in the samsara and maybe hellish planets and like that. As long as we maintain that mentality. And the spirit soul, especially in the human form, there's opportunity to transform. Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna's transformation. Bhagavatam is all about transformation of different spirit souls. We just mentioned the Kumara's transformation. So, so just like, okay, we can use the state prison system analogy again. As long as I'm invested and dedicated to a criminal mentality, I'm not going to follow it. I'm going to violate people's rights. I'm going to steal. I'm going to murder. That's what we keep doing. Whatever you say, whatever. That's what we say. Okay, then like I'm going to stay in prison, and at every moment, I have the opportunity. I'm giving up this criminal mentality, and I'm going to follow the laws of the king, the government, the prime minister, king and queen, whatever. I'm going to follow the laws, and yes, that's my choice now. Sincerely, not just trying to do a deception like that, but I'm really going to follow the laws, and I get that's the best for me, and then I'll contribute to people. I'll be so satisfied. Yeah. So as long as we retain the criminal mentality, then we're giving ourselves no chance, and the spirit soul, especially in human form, we can always choose. We can change our place on the machine of material energy, and that's what this, like any coaching session, anything in the course, that's what it's about. Oh yeah, till now, in this relationship with my mom or dad, I would just like use roadblocks and tell them what to do or warn them, or I would just go away, fight or flight. Oh yeah, well through this session or through this, we heard some sharing at the graduation when one shares it, like it was like a 5-minute process, and they changed their marriage relationship. So that's changing the karma. According to my psychophysical karma, I either fight or flight. Oh, now I get, all right, I'll experience my experience of anger, resentment, and I'm going to dedicate myself to show understanding. And, I didn't know that was possible. So that's coming to sattva, and that's changing. In the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada addresses this more than once. Right, there's five subjects of Bhagavad Gita. Who would like to say what they are?
Maybe I can say so. I know that this is where it was a big moment for me when I understood this, what you're saying.
Yeah.
That the stuckness and this DNA that I've been given, this way of being, I was so stuck when I read the introduction for the first time in your first Bhagavad Gita course. Yeah. I had read it before then, but I didn't hear it. But in the course, you gave us the questions. Question.
Right in the first module.
Oh gosh, I'm not stuck.
Yeah.
Like time. Time.
Right.
Okay. The rest of them, what's all time, karma, time. What is it? I don't know.
Super soul?
God, another subject is God, and then God has 3 aspects: the super soul, the Bhagavan, that, Okay, the other 2 topics are Prakriti, material nature, and the Jiva, the individual soul. Okay, so there's 5 topics, and 4 are eternal, and 1 is not eternal, and the one that's not eternal, that's karma. Karma can be crushed, destroyed, transcended, changed. And Prabhupada, in that introduction to Bhagavad Gita, he says, and the process to change karma, transcend karma, step out of karma, he doesn't even talk about bhava or prema like the gopis. He just talks about knowledge. Just like, let's take that example we used 2 minutes ago. Oh, now I have knowledge. I can cross the bridge and show empathy. Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, it's just through knowledge. Just through knowledge, we change our karma. Oh, now I have a different way to relate to my eating. I didn't even know that existed. Now I have a different way to relate to the phases of the day. Getting up at 4 a.m. rather than getting up at 12 noon. It changes everything. And if we're going to do some meditation or chanting or read Bhagavad Gita, I didn't grow up with that. Okay, so just through knowledge, he doesn't even talk about, Mahabhava or things like that. We change our karma, we change our place on the machine material energy, so there's no eternal damnation. And if we're just stubbornly attached to this mode of nature and this criminal mentality, then we are closing ourselves off from the sunlight, and that's our responsibility.
Thank you. A couple of thoughts that come up is one, I think of like the victim mentality and like getting out of victim and into responsibility. That's changing karma. Right?
Yes, it is.
That's giving us opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I was thinking of coaching sessions, like when I help people to change their behaviors or help them to pause or like psychoeducation or something like that. So that's also helping people to change karma. It's not destroying karma, but it's changing their karma.
Towards sattva.
Towards sattva, which then they're more likely to destroy karma and come from that place.
Yes. And from sattva, then more opening to choose transcendence. And there are places where Prabhupada says, Rajas and Tamas, we're doing more harm than good. Sattva, it's not the transcendental element, but it's sattva, we're doing some good if we're ourselves and moving others to sattva. Yeah, and that's changing karma. It's, in one sense, it's not mysterious. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that in Prabhupada's house, that's like our main theme. Just people getting some peace for a chance, for a moment.
Yeah.
They just don't live that kind of life, and they don't know they're landing in a place that's so peaceful and clean, and the food, everything's sattvic, and so just what I get to observe is just so rewarding and beautiful, just to consistently see people just let go a little bit, and then immediately they start planning to come back.
Yeah.
Because their taste and to know that I don't know what they're doing out there in the world when they leave, but they get such a big spoonful easily at Prabhupada's house that it's satisfying for me, but just to watch it, it's so visceral, and it's a tangible thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. If I didn't see that, so every day with everybody, no, you can't just come in there and then go and not feel that this lifestyle might be possible for me. I could do that. I might do some of this.
They're affected. They're impacted.
Yeah, giving them a little slap on there. It's sometimes it doesn't feel like enough to me personally, but it's still something that at least that's pretty consistent over there. Yeah, it's interesting that Peter Bar asked me something about that yesterday, and it's joyful to experience, facilitate it. And sometimes it's short of feeling like full on giving people bhakti or distributing books or whatever, but if that's my service, then I'm open to it. But he and I were discussing it yesterday, and he was complimenting how I do it. He was witnessing me meet this guest and talk to this one, move around and run the house, and encouraging not to worry so much what I'm not doing, kind of redirect my, because he could see it. He's an intelligent man, he could see what's happening, and I'm just
so you felt encouraged by him.
He was kind of in the corner. Did you see when he kind of went over that corner? He was just watching all this charade of people coming and going, and neighbors stopping in, and things getting distributed, and conversations and chanting and reading. And it's kind of, and yet it's so unlike what a bhakti center would look like necessarily.
And that's, you're clear. It's not your service to run a temple. I'm clear it's not my service. And yes, right. That's so that everyone comes, they get transformed, and you're enlivened that they get transformed, and you're looking at, how you can do more for Srila Prabhupada, and I'm looking at that too for myself.
there's that balance of like, well, I have thoughts like, I just want to go where the action is. Like, I'm out here creating some sattvic people, but is this really like enough? Like, I don't even know how long it lasts once they leave there. Probably they go straight to the hamburger joint. So it's like, well, here I'm planting some seeds. Maybe they'll go home and take the TV out, or maybe they'll eat some more vegetarian than they did, or whatever. But I have so many thoughts and so much energy bouncing out of me that he saw it. He's like, you don't have to go do a big thing. You have to move to India and he's like, because what you're doing is important, and but I get those thoughts that like, I want to, that's why I come here, and I'm noticing this morning, like, I come here and I just want to receive I want to be in receiving what you're throwing out, right, and what's happening in this room.
Yes.
To fill my cup, because that can be draining, because nobody walks to the door very softly, right? So teaching them and exhibiting it and role modeling it and creating the space for it and constantly manipulating the things so that it stays, the conversation stays softly.
You're always the lead facilitator.
And just to come here, I'm like, okay, can I just hear what you're saying?
Hear and
meditate
absorb.
on this lesson, read this verse, sing, and yet today there's people there texting me right now, and I'm just like, I just sometimes need a break, and I go, what if I just take myself out of this and I do something that's just not so sattvic, but really get it and really go all in? It would be like, is that selfish? Is that what, like, obviously that's my service, because it just is, but there's a desire to like be around more some people that have gone past that level, and then take some association and grow my bhakti, save my own soul, so to speak.
You are the association.
I'm it. Yeah.
And that can feel like heavy and draining. Yeah. So you like to come here sometimes.
But if we save, I'm on this planet to save to get my own self back to Godhead, so to speak. But I know we're supposed to preach and share.
Yeah.
But if it's not really preaching, sometimes it is, and I try my best to incorporate it. But I'm responsible for that's violence, right? I'm responsible for those souls too, because they've chosen, or Krishna's directed them through Melrose to Prabhupada's house.
Yeah.
So then there's that responsibility to help them along. Maybe it is just give them a sattvic weekend or some prasad or whatever. But it's so actively involved that sometimes how do I get to, besides coming up here, a few times a month, it's like, sometimes I just want to abandon ship and go, like, let me just I got so much to do here. Sometimes I feel like I've put it all out there, and then I can't go deep enough, because I'm just making sure that everybody else is happy, and I don't get enough to feed my own self, and so I'm like, what is this right?
I appreciate how you're personally describing the synergistic integrated balance that you're seeking to achieve, and me too. And so we are Ghostinanandis, not Bhajananandis. These are terms Prabhupada uses. Ghostinanandi is like, we're going out there and sharing. The quintessence.
Because we can.
What's that?
Because we can is what it feels like. Because I can.
Those
happen to be my skills. Right.
All of us according to our skills.
Yeah.
So in our line, clearly, like Srila Prabhupada, he's completely blissful and satisfied in Vrindavan. He doesn't need to get on the ship and have heart attacks. But like, he's coming and then there's the Bhajananandis. They their service is to just do bhajan, internal bhajan. That's not our line. That's not our line. And so it's a spiritual growth edge balance for each of us. Okay, for example, to show imbalance, to show okay, on one side of imbalance, there was a a top leader in Prabhupada's movement in the 70s. And I heard, actually, I heard from someone who was a mentor for me going back 40 years in the 1980s, and, into the 90s a bit. But he had, this top leader, after Srila Prabhupada left, and this top leader, he was like inspiring distribution of so many books and doing management for different devotional. I mean, he was like highly effective, highly intelligent. But it was noticed like he wasn't chanting. He wasn't chanting. So at one point, some friends, some honest feedback, like, we're concerned. And his comment was Arjuna didn't chant japa. Arjuna was out there fighting for Krishna. Okay, so I'm using that as an example. And then, of course, not surprisingly, he ran into all sorts of troubles and confusion. And because he was in a leadership position, he caused a lot of damage to others. And anyhow, so that's the thing where, well, in the name of out there sharing and preaching, he was neglecting the internal cultivation. Okay? And so that's like an imbalance. And he was highly effective for a short period of time, but he was like a shooting star. Prabhupada said he's a lot more pleased by the steady moon than the shooting star. Okay, and then another, Prabhupada will so often warn us, and Bhaktisiddhanta does that too, to not try to imitate Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, he would chant like 300,000 names, well, 333,000 names. Comes to like somewhere between 175, 192 rounds per day. That's what I should do. I mean, who could argue with that? Just like, chant for 18 hours. But Prabhupada says, like, no, that's not your service. First of all, actually, there was one disciple who Prabhupada gave Babaji initiation to. Babaji, a special initiation, you just be like Haridas Thakur. Okay? This is in the conversations. And because the disciple was diagnosed with cancer and he would die in a few months. So he got this Babaji initiation, like you don't need to do any outreach. And it turned out he didn't die from the cancer, and he was seen shortly after the initiation driving a sports car in Chicago. Okay, so, and I see Prabhupada just like demonstrating like this whole thing of like trying to be like Haridas Thakur, and I'll just go to a cave to the Himalayas and chant like that, and because it just cultivate and purify. Like, no, we're not built for that. And even if we work, like Prabhupada could do that, but he came to New York and he came to Gainesville, and he came all around the world because that was his service. So it goes hand in hand. I know my service, I'm leading class and discussion today. I'm getting cleansing of the heart. I'm facilitating transformative communication seminars 3 days, 7 day. For me to do that, I need to come out of ignorance and passion, and I need to look at myself, and what's the term, fool, and look at my foolishness. So by getting out there and boldly doing service for Prabhupada, while engaged in the sadhana Prabhupada gave us, then my anarthas come up. Whereas if I'm like hiding out and I'm just doing sadhana, then almost surely there's anarthas and weeds in my heart and dust in my consciousness that would never come up in this lifetime. And it only comes up when I put myself out there and get to look in the mirror that I get to look in those services, and oftentimes it's painful, foolish, embarrassing. And so it's not like, well, is it preaching or is it our internal? They go together. And the more I'm in my internal process and attentive in my japa and looking into the mirror of Prabhupada's purports, then the more I'm enlivened. How can I serve practically? It goes together.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to find that like, for me, because it comes up for me all the time. And every time I'm here, I have some way I'm trying to measure it somehow, so I'm sure I'm doing the right thing. Like, I don't want to get too caught up in that, but I like the service, and so it's like I'm always like trying to figure out if this is enough or if this is right, and what is that coming from? All that question, like I could interpret it as super soul saying check in because you might be going a little overboard out here and not taking care of your own practice, or it could be, that's just my mind nagging at me because I'm exhausted and I find it distracting and annoying sometimes. So I'm always like, how do I know? Like, I want some answer, some definitive that this is okay, you're doing okay. Like, I don't know where that comes from except to build my relationship with Prabhupada and Krishna, which I manage to balance it, but it's just, I seem to always be in that question. Like, not really sure if this is the thing or if it's a distraction. Yeah. Being in the question for several years, or 5-6 years now. That's a long time to be in the question. I mean, there's been phases of it, and I would say it improves. It definitely, the balance is more even as I get more mature in that service. But I don't know where to know for sure. I don't know how to know for sure if I'm using my time as wisely as I could, as I'm capable. Or maybe I'm just warming up because I'm not capable and I'm getting to be capable. And then I'll know. I don't know. That's coming to me right in this moment, just sharing this with you guys. Anyway, sounds like a coaching session.
It seems
Lecture free always wanted.
It seems to live in such question can definitely have a spiritual bhakti aspect to it. We always want to move more and more towards that healthy balance, and to refine, improve, expand, deepen, strengthen our service. So how can I be more balanced between the outreach and the internal? And then it can also have a grungy Maya aspect where we're getting caught in the mind at the expense of super soul connection in a way that's a distraction. I'm reminded here of that purport in the 10th canto where Mother Yashoda, and she's nursing Krishna, but then the milk is boiling over. Of course, the milk is also for Krishna, so it's all for Krishna. Whether you're sadhana, it's all for Krishna and Prabhupada, or you're speaking to people at Prabhupada house. So Mother Yashoda's like, oh, well, I need to get to the milk, it's boiling over, it's going to create a whole mess, like that. Okay, so she goes there, and then Krishna cries, like that, all to increase her love. And in the purport, Prabhupada talks about transcendental management. He says it's natural that, first he says, Mother Yashoda is not at fault here for putting Krishna down. Krishna's crying because he has a bad temperament, so that's Krishna. Okay, and but he said for devotees, it's just for devotees naturally in their service, they determine to do this first and that first, and they get super soul inspiration what to do first, what to do next. One gauge is like, to look at to the degree that my enthusiasm is increasing. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Krishna, anxieties undertaken in your service are the source of my greatest joy and ecstasy. So yes, and then the more we expand our service, the more there's responsibilities and interpersonal details and management. And to what extent is my enthusiasm increasing? If so, that's a sense, my super soul connection and dedication to Prabhupada is increasing. Or to what extent am I becoming drained and martyred, and I just want to hide under the covers? No, I'm going to hide under the covers for the next 2 weeks. Okay, then that's a sign we're probably not in a healthy balance.
Well, that situation out there's no covers. There's no time to the covers.
You don't even have that option.
You can't, no, it's 100% on, light switch is on all the time. So that's why I love morning program, because most people aren't up, so I can get a few hours in before it begins. Yeah, thank you for that last part about just checking the level of my enthusiasm is increasing. That makes sense to me to meditate on that a little bit and kind of look at that and see, I'm not under the covers, but is it increasing? I don't know, it evolves, it changes, but yeah, increasing, like, I don't know what to think about that.
Thank you, Lakshmi Priya. Rasamita.
Krishna. I got to talk to Dunbar a little bit at the White House, and enlightening discussion, very technical about, we were talking about transceivers. And so anyway, in this discussion, he's talking about, so a transceiver, it both has the capacity, the ability to receive energy, and then give out to transmit it. And also that capacity, that ability to do so. And so anyway, we started talking about some philosophy regarding discernment, and then I brought up the word discretion. And I just had something click in my mind, and it's not, fully realized, but so often we're told about discernment, for example, in association. Where are we going to receive and to hear, to associate, and our ability, capacity to take that in. And then for me, a current focus is discretion in when I give back out, right? Discretion in applying myself to what I've received and time, place, and circumstance, this person, this environment. Am I being of service? Is what I'm doing maybe hurtful, harmful? So discernment and discretion, and putting that down and bringing up something else that came to my mind with your sharing, Lakshmi Priya. And I'm maybe not remembering the past time so much, but there was a close associate of Prabhupada who was like serving him, I think like serving him food and like cooking and these kinds of things, very closely serving Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked this devotee to go out and preach in a different country.
Harikesh.
Harikesh.
He lives in a little south of Gainesville. He has a horse farm.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And I'm not remembering what country, right? But
Russia at the time.
Russia.
Yeah.
And so Harikesh said something like, well, he's attached to the service of Prabhupada. He gets to serve him so closely. And he's like, Prabhupada, in this other country, there's lines for food, and there's rationing, and there's like these things going on, and all they have is meat. Like, why are you sending me here? I don't want to do this. And Prabhupada, it's like, well, if you're going to preach, you're going to serve, then eat the meat, right? And so I found that very inspiring. I'm like, oh my gosh, do what it takes to serve. And I get that again with discernment and discretion, right? Not like I'm doing this for my enjoyment, I'm doing this because I'm being lackadaisical. But go out, do the work, use your discretion and your discernment. And the other thing that comes to my mind is when Prabhupada first came to America, he was staying at the home with a little girl.
Sally and Gopal Agarwal.
And so, he was putting his boga in a refrigerator that had meat in it, right? And so, sometimes we're doing things, and we might question, but, it's our responsibility. I get it as both faith and personal responsibility. The things that are coming to me and how I receive, and the personal responsibility of my discretion and my actions, both simultaneously, and I don't get to know. That's something I'm saying, I don't know if that's true, but my answer to myself is I don't get to know if I'm doing the right thing. I'm just doing my best. And I accept the responsibility for the reaction of my actions. Hare Krishna.
Have you received some good association yesterday?
Thanks for that, Rasamita. Okay, so Prabhupada didn't want Harikesh to eat meat. He was emphasizing the importance of getting out there and sharing Krishna. And Russia was a communist country many of those devotees in Russia, they were tortured by the Russian authorities, killed. So it was quite quite a risky, quite a lot of courage to go there, and especially as a pioneer. So as I heard that conversation, and it is transcribed, and 2012, shortly after I moved here, I visited Harikesh with his wife is Kamala. So he was late 90s, late 90s till 98. He was the most powerful, influential leader in the ISKCON organization, Harikesh, for sure. And then he took his life in a different direction. So I visited him in. So the conversation. He said, "Well, but there's nothing to eat there except for meat, Prabhupada. Eat meat if you have to." Harikesh. What, Harikesh? What about my consciousness, Prabhupada? Damn your consciousness. Hare Krishna. It really, no, we need to see this in the right light. Damn your consciousness. So this is a classic. Okay, so Prabhupada doesn't want Harikesh to eat meat, but so that's Prabhupada, and then that's Prabhupada emphasized. Well, one thing, he wanted Harikesh to go away from him. Go away. Harikesh was so happy and blissful, preparing Prabhupada's meals and carrying his suitcase. Wonderful. And Harikesh was attached to the service. Okay. But Prabhupada see like this bright young man, he has like capacity to like bring Krishna consciousness to millions of people. So it was like Prabhupada's way of saying, go away. Like, I'll get someone else to like prepare the prasad. Okay. So the damn your consciousness is like the importance of getting out there and sharing, and not to be so self-absorbed. Oh, but I still have this and that, and whatever. Oh my God, didn't chant attentively. There's, hundreds and thousands of other places where Prabhupada emphasizes the importance of, like, cultivate our consciousness and then go out there. So there's those instructions too. With Harikesh was like too much about, and this is what I hear from Harikesh, so I've talked to him personally, like too much about, well, what about my consciousness? So Prabhupada was being sadhu and cutting, and that's the word. Damn your consciousness. Go to Russia and make the whole country Krishna consciousness. Now, of course, if Harikesh isn't chanting attentively and very rigorous in the principles, then he won't be effective. So we're not going to be effective in sharing if we're not attentive to the purity of our consciousness. Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.